First thing first, gentlemen, how are you?
Good,
Good.
thank you. Thanks for having us. How are you?
I'm okay, I'm doing well. Before we get into the music and everything, I'd like to go back to the beginning. Now, I'm not exactly sure when you first met, but it's quite a while ago. So, David, do you remember your first impressions of Connor?
Um, do I remember my first impressions of Conor? Yeah, I think so. We were young, so it was a long time ago, but he was a cool guy. We were drawn to each other because we kind of both had a love for music and a love for art and stuff like that. And in our group, in our circle of friends, we were the two that only kind of were drawn to that side. Um, So yeah, I think my first impressions were like he was a cool dude who liked what I liked and liked the type of music I liked, and was up for just playing music and jamming and stuff like that.
And David, or Connor, sorry, vice versa. What were your thoughts on David when you first met him?
He's very confident.
Hmm.
And I remember first time I met him, I actually heard him sing.
Okay.
And I was just like, holy shit, this guy has a good voice. So I think that's why I was drawn to him.
But
No,
because, like you say, you were quite young, but you were already into music and creativity. But how long from kind of meeting each other for the first time until you actually started working together and started being creative together?
Oh well, from the beginning, we used to like meet up in his shed out his back garden and play music and write songs and stuff. But I was playing music with a different guy in school. Connor was in a different band, and we were just kind of jumping around different things. But it was probably like 3 or 4 years after, but we were still playing music together during them. But it
Okay.
was probably 3 years after the first meet that we were kind of like, let's see what we can do. Like, let's play some music, let's write some songs and see what happens, kind of thing.
And what did come out of that initial? Because, like you say, you've been playing music in all kinds of other bands and other methods of playing. So, what was different when kind of the two of you, and then later the core of what now is the band, came together?
We had fun, I think. Um, we're just solely doing it just because we loved it and because we got on and because we just got fun out of it. Like we enjoyed each other's time, and that was the main thing. There was never really let's get into a band and let's get huge. There was it wasn't until kind of our first single we released and that got attention that we went, oh Jesus, there might be something good here. All building up to that, it was just solely for fun and entertainment, and
Okay.
we just enjoyed each other's company when we were doing it.
Okay. And so the first single, All or Nothing, it's it was released in 2017. It's about 3 years ago now. So with everything that you've
Mm.
experienced over the years, how do you look back at that first song then?
um, I think we look back on it as I think we've grown a lot. I think we've learned a lot. But also we look back on it with great fondness. That was the
Mm.
song that kind of started everything for us. And even though we feel we've progressed as a band and our sound has changed, it's a song that we're very close to and that we love and will always continue to love because it gave us all the opportunities that we have now. If it wasn't for that song, we probably wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. And it takes us back to the kind of excitement of
Mm.
starting out as a band and having people sing your lyrics back for the first time and selling out your first show and hearing your song on the radio for the first time. That was all with that song. So it's kind of like it's like a first girlfriend. You can move on, but you kind of never forget them.
Mm. I'm always very interested in kind of those early years of a band because to me those are the toughest years, I suppose, because then your passion gets really tested. So, and I believe I heard the band speak about this, where you've played in front of 5 people, you've played in front of 25,000 people. So, what were those first couple of years like when you're still figuring out not only your craft but what you want to do with it?
um I really good fun actually. um we're one of those bands that I think, and I think if anyone who's come to our shows would vouch for us when we say this, that if we're playing in front of 2 people or we're playing in front of 200,000 people, we give the same performance every time. And I think it's the excitement. And even though you have those nights where there's only 5 people show up, it was the fun of experiencing everything for the first time, for being on a tour bus for the first time, to traveling around and being together for the first time, to, you know, doing your first radio show. And yeah, of course, there's good days and there's bad days. And there's some days where you could be doing a sold out show, but you look at your bank account and you still have like no money to even buy a beer after the show. And it's like, but those things I think are all character building. And yeah, I think, you know, we just looked at it. It was almost like at the start when we look back at it, it was like 4 best friends who got to go like interrailing together. But at the end of each day, we got to play a show. Yeah. So it was like, yeah, it was great fun.
It was like interrailing. I think that's the best way to say it. Yeah.
And is there one specific experience that sticks out, or from those early years, maybe a gig that went really well or really bad, or is there anything that sticks out from those years?
One for me is when we got to tour with Codaline around Europe, supporting them, and our first day was in Paris. So like we like had a little tour bus, and I slept the whole way, and I got woken up like basically driving underneath the Eiffel Tower, basically. And it was just a real wow moment of like, we get to come here and play, like, because of music. It was a real kind of shock. Yeah, that's it for me, big time.
And is it in those moments, because you mentioned, well, it was initially mostly about fun and just making some good music together. What was the turning? Was there a moment where you thought, well, this is taking off now. We're doing really well. We're heading in the right direction. Was there a moment where things got more serious in a way?
Yeah, I think so. I think when we released Can't Move On, was like the moment when, for us, it started to feel very real, because that song started getting like really heavy rotation on radio. So like, every time you get in a car, one of our friends got in a car, you were just getting videos the whole time of like the song being on the radio. And it went on to be like the most played song on Irish radio in 2018. And then off the back of that, it's like some of our venues that we dreamt of playing started like selling out our own shows. And, you know, people started to kind of recognize you on the street. And then our song was part of like a big Christmas ad in Ireland. So it's on the TV all the time. And then it was on the radio. And it was like, it kind of just felt it was everywhere. And suddenly people kind of started to just know who the band were. And I think that's when it started to become real and feel real, you know, and it's like got played on BBC and Zane Lowe and stuff played the song. It kind of felt like shit, you know, this feels, we can sign off the welfare.
Well, because that's the interesting thing about, I suppose, this whole music business. When you start, you don't expect those kind of things to happen, but then at a certain point they do. So, and this is probably very difficult to say about your own music and yourselves, but why do you think, what do you think people could find in the music that you make?
I think people find honesty. So I think honesty within the lyrics, but also fun within the music. So it's like, they are
relatable.
Yeah, and I think lyrically, like, they're quite sad, and it's kind of things like about breakups, etc., that everyone kind of goes through, but it's kind of disguised in this upbeat kind of fun music. So it's not all doom and gloom. It's like people can relate to the lyrics, but they also like, they can dance to the songs, and I think maybe that's kind of what worked.
And sonically, I mean, you mentioned kind of the fun and danceable sound. Were you as a foursome, were you all on the same line immediately, or do you all have your own different influences and bring that to the band?
I think we all have our own differences, but I think together when we combine them, it wasn't like a forced thing where we were like, we have to try and find this sound and this is what we want to be and this is who we are. It was kind of when everyone's inspirations came together, it was kind of the sound that just came out. And I think, you know, like our inspirations vary from like, you know, Prince and Bowie to like disco and you know, but then like Callum, our drummer, loves Muse, and like Dave loved Frank Sinatra growing up, and you know, there's so many different inspirations, but I think combined on, I think it was probably Can't Move On too, that when we landed on that kind of song, it's when we all felt most comfortable in who we were as a band and what our sound was. And I think that kind of, then you kind of, once you discover that sound, you can obviously build on that sound and progress in that sound. But once we landed there, we were like, that was kind of, we all felt comfortable with that kind of being the kind of sonic identity of what Wild Youth was.
Right. And when in this whole process, and I don't know the exact timeline, but when did you meet the guys from the Script?
Christmas 2017.
Okay, so it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah. It was just after we released a song called Lose Control. We played a Christmas gig in Dublin in the 3 Arena. And they were on the same lineup. We were like first on, they were last on. But afterwards we ended up kind of having a beer together, and they like loved what we were doing and they loved our songs, and we just decided to get in the studio and write some music, and the rest was history.
And what is one thing you take away from, because obviously you made the EP Last Goodbye with them. What is one thing you take away from working with them and seeing how kind of a band that has been out there for a couple of years does it? What did you take away in terms of a learning experience?
Just work ethic as well.
Yeah, work ethic. Just to not get caught up in the... Sorry. And to just not get caught up in the bullshit, and just kind of, because it can be very easy to start to believe your own hype, which is something I don't think they've ever done. And they just say that nothing can outweigh hard work, and they're one of the hardest working bands I think we've ever met. And that's what Dave's saying, their work ethic. They just never stop, ever.
You're in the studio every day, first in, last out kind of thing.
Well, let me ask you this then, because, and I imagine you've experienced this as well, when you told your peers or your family and friends, well, I'm going to be a musician. They might have had certain thoughts about that. So do you think there are some misconceptions about what it entails to be a musician and to be a touring musician as well? Well, these days that's not relevant, but do you think there are some misconceptions about what it entails to be an artist in a way?
Yeah, like there's it's from my view on it, all I can really judge is what I've gone through. For me, there's a lot harder scenarios that you go through than I thought. I used to think if you got onto the radio and if you got into the top 10 and all this sort of stuff, your life was made, you'd made it. But there's a lot more work to that. Like you got to tour, you got to promote, a lot of promotion. There's a lot more to it than just the actual song itself, There's a lot more, yeah.
And obviously these days we can't tour, and you mentioned the energy of the live shows earlier on. So what is kind of the state of the world, so to say, how has that impacted what you are able to do, and then how this band goes forward?
Well, we are a big kind of, we love playing live. That's our thing. So we love to do the most. We love to be on tour together, traveling and just playing shows night after night, like, and meeting our fans, etc. Like that's our favorite thing to do as a band. So, that's been hit hard, obviously. But as we were saying before this started, like you have to just kind of find the pros in it, and there's nothing we can do about it. We can't change it right now. So, we've been looking at other kind of venues, like maybe like live streaming stuff and all that, but hopefully this just all gets sorted as quick as possible that we can go back on the road,
Right, fair enough. Now I want to get into your latest single, Next to You. Can you take me back to kind of where that song originated? What was the starting point for that song?
It started in London, in a studio in October last year. It was just a writing session, and it kind of came from just like a cool loop that we had, and then the chorus kind of happened, but there was no verse. The chorus happened, but I think we all just kept going back to this chorus the whole time. Even though there was kind of no song there, it was literally just a chorus. So just play a loop for like a minute and then it would get to the chorus. But when it got to the chorus, we'd all be like, yes. So yeah, it kind of just, we could never let go of it, even though there's so many ideas have been finished and stuff. And we're like, nah, it doesn't, there was some magic in this chorus that we just couldn't get away from. And then, we went back in and we finished it in January, actually. And then we went into the studio in kind of later January and we started to record it. And then it just kind of became all of our favorite songs and it just felt right. We wanted to just put out a song that because it had been a while since we put something out. So we wanted to put out something that we were just so proud of and kind of really kind of like, I don't know. Just a sound that we had found that we felt had evolved from our last EP, but in the kind of right direction that we wanted to show people kind of where we were going, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, with that in mind, because you say you worked on that song for quite a while, you had the chorus, but then in January it kind of started clicking. What worked? Well, how come it started to work all of a sudden? That the verse and everything started to kind of fall into place.
Because I think there was, as I said, there was some kind of magic in the chorus that every time we heard it, we were just all obsessed with this chorus. So it was all just about finding a verse that could match up with that chorus. And we knew that once we did that, we would have a song that we were going to be so proud of and that we would love. And sometimes you have to fight for songs a little bit harder like that. You know, you can either let it go or you can just keep fighting and fighting. So it's kind of what we did. And we just didn't really stop until we got the verse that we felt matched up with the chorus. And then kind of a last minute thing was then putting the outro, which was the I just want to hold you, love you and adore you, kind of repeated to the end of the song. And then once that kind of came in on top of it too, and then I remember once we did that, we kind of put it down in the studio and we recorded it, because we would send it to like our label and our manager and stuff, and they'd be like what is this that you're sending us? It's just like this, like it's a chorus, kind of like it's just a chorus over and over again. And we were like, I know, but can you not hear the magic? And they're like, no, because it's not a song there. But then I think when we got it all right, because I think for us, we could see where we wanted the song to go, and we knew where it would end up and the place that it would be. And I think that's maybe why we got so excited by it. So I think once it all kind of clicked into place, and then we recorded it and we sent it to like our label and our management and stuff, they were like, okay.
So they finally saw what you saw. When it comes to the lyrics, then, and you mentioned that you write from a real place, and now something. I think the themes are very, very relatable for a lot of people. So when you either wrote the song, sing the song, now do you think about a specific person? And this goes for both of you, obviously.
I think when you're performing, you kind of don't think about anything except for performing. But I think there's definitely weird scenarios where songs have been inspired by certain things, and you'll kind of like sit back and go, that's weird that I wrote that song like in a time and a place when I felt my lowest and about that certain person, and now it's led me to like be on this stage and hearing people sing it back. Like that is a weird thing. But yeah, I think there's also nice moments too, where people have songs that mean a lot to them. And, there's magic moments where songs could be about girlfriends or loved ones, and they could be in the crowd and you hear people singing it back. And there's magic moments for everyone in the band like that,
What is one of the best reactions or comments you've heard from a fan about your music?
That it saved their life.
Okay. Yeah, we hear a lot of our fans saying that it's changed their life, and our music has brought them closer and has made best friends like through our music and stuff like that. So that's kind of heartwarming to hear, that we've kind of helped people.
I was going to ask, well, what does that do to you when you obviously you yourself had at some point connections to songs, and music did a similar thing, I suppose, for everyone. But what does it do to you then that now you have that effect on people, or can have that effect on people with the music?
I don't know. I find it crazy, to be honest. I still find it crazy to think that us playing a gig and or us just like writing or replying back to a text or a DM or sending a happy birthday video could do so much for somebody. So I still find it crazy to think that we can like that we have that, whatever you want to call it, that power in some way, that people look up to you so much that like you can make their day by just saying hi to them. But in return, we do that as much as we can then, because we know we have it. You know, we know that a lot of our fans, like a lot of people in general, go through shit and go through hard times. And if we can help them at all by just replying back to a message or sending a happy birthday or going out after a gig and meeting them all while they stood in the cold for hours and hours before they went into the gig, if we can help in any little way, we do it, you know? If it isn't for them, if it isn't for them, we wouldn't have made it. Like we wouldn't have a career, you know.
They do it for us. Like there's days where we're only human too, and there's days when we wake up and we feel like shit or we feel down and we don't feel ourselves, and it can be the smallest thing, like them tweeting us saying that the start of their day, or they felt down this morning, but their whole day turned around when they heard Next to You on the radio, or they heard one of our songs, and then that kind of gives us life. And especially in the weirdest times, like right now when you can't play shows, to feel like you have a purpose and to feel like that something that you've done has inspired someone that morning can be so inspiring for you. And sometimes people don't even realize that, but the simplest thing, like getting a tweet and people saying how much the lyrics mean to them, or like how the song totally changed their mood, or how it's changed their life, or whatever it is, it can just totally inspire us to believe that we're doing the right thing.
Sorry.
Corona.
Final question then. Can I assume that Next to You is kind of the first in what will be either an EP or a full album?
Yeah, it's the first song of what will be an EP eventually in the new year, maybe March.
Okay.
And then I mean, we've got all this time now without doing shows, so why not start writing an album?
What have you noticed? And like you say, you mentioned kind of the development of the band over the years. What have you noticed about where the band is at now in terms of mindset, but also what type of songs start rolling out in a way?
Mindset, I think it's a weird time. So I think, everyone's mindset's a little bit skewed. But I think we have each other, and we're lucky, and we have people who still listen to and hopefully like our music. I think starting off, you're always worried that you'll make the wrong decisions, or you might release that one song that people don't like and suddenly people will stop liking you as a band. Whereas now we're a little bit more kind of carefree with our music, and we kind of made a vow to each other that we would never kind of put anything out unless we really loved it as a band and we were super proud of it and we could stand by it. We could stand by the music video. And even if it all fell on its face in a couple of months' time, that we could look back and we're still so proud of everything that we did. So I think we make sure that every song and video and artwork kind of matches that MO, if you get me, that we can stand by it and be super proud of it. I think that's where we've got to. And I think that allows us some kind of freedom to know that once we're proud of it, we hope that other people like it. But if people don't react to it, that we're still super proud of it. And once we love it, that was the most important thing,
Sounds good. Conor, David, thank you very much for taking the time to sit down with me.
Thank you so much.